Stop filming me. Please just stop. The autistic young man's desperate plea was met with laughter as the social media influencer zoomed in closer, her 5 million followers watching live as he melted down in the middle of Starbucks, his hands covering his ears, tears streaming down his face. She didn't know his older brother was a Navy SEAL specializing in psychological warfare. She didn't know every cruel video she posted was being cataloged. And she definitely didn't know that in exactly 72 hours, her entire empire would be burned to the ground from the inside out, and the man who'd bring her down wouldn't even need to throw a punch. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. They said no one cares about stories of discipline, courage, and service. If you do, subscribe and stand with this channel. I enjoy stories more when I imagine them myself, so that's how I tell mine. This story isn't just meant to be watched. It's meant to be imagined. The Brew Harbor coffee shop on Coronado Island had become Ethan Walker's safe space, a predictable environment where he could work on his coding projects, drink his black coffee, and exist without the crushing weight of social expectations that came with his autism. Until Skylar Vex decided he'd make perfect content. 23-year-old Ethan sat at his usual corner table, noise-canceling headphones creating a protective barrier, his fingers moving in precise rhythmic patterns across the wooden surface. Tap, tap, slide, tap, a self-soothing mechanism that helped him manage the sensory overload of the busy cafe. His laptop displayed clean lines of JavaScript code for a freelance web development project. He was in his element, lost in the beautiful logic of programming where everything made sense and nothing was ambiguous. What Ethan didn't notice was the woman 3 tables away, her phone angled perfectly to capture him, her lips moving as she narrated for her 4.7 million TikTok followers. Skylar Vex had built an empire on cruelty disguised as concern. At 26, she'd turned public freakout content into a 6-figure income, sponsored by energy drinks and fast fashion brands who didn't care how she got her engagement numbers, only that she got them. Her formula was simple: find vulnerable people in public, film them without consent, add mocking commentary wrapped in fake worry, and watch the views roll in. She'd been documenting Ethan for 3 weeks now. Coffee shop creeper update, day 19. She whispered into her phone, zooming in on Ethan's hands. So the hand thing is getting worse, and I'm genuinely concerned for public safety at this point. Like, why does he always sit alone? Why is he always watching people? Multiple women have told me they feel unsafe. None of this was true. Ethan barely looked up from his laptop. But truth didn't matter. The narrative did. Her comments section was a predictable cesspool. Call the cops before he snaps. Deaf serial killer vibes. Why hasn't Starbucks banned him yet? The hand thing is so creepy I can't. Skylar's engagement was through the roof. Her last video about Ethan had gotten 8.2 million views. Brands were reaching out. She'd just signed a deal with a major energy drink company specifically because of the Coffee Creeper series. But today, she wanted the ultimate content, a confrontation. She stood up, adjusted her crop top, checked her hair in her phone's camera, and hit go live. Okay guys, I'm actually going to say something, she announced to the 47,000 people who'd instantly joined her live stream. I can't just keep watching this and not speak up. Wish me luck. She approached Ethan's table, her phone held high, her voice shifting into that performance of concern that had made her famous. Hey, excuse me? Ethan didn't respond. His headphones were on, his focus absolute. Skylar reached out and tapped his shoulder, a violation she knew would trigger a response. Ethan startled violently, his whole body jerking away from the unexpected touch. He pulled off his headphones, his eyes wide, his breathing already accelerating as his nervous system flooded with cortisol. Can I help you? His voice was soft, uncertain. I just wanted to check if you're okay, Skylar said loudly, making sure her 50,000 live viewers could hear every word. Because you're here every single day, always alone, doing that weird hand thing, and honestly a lot of people have told me they feel uncomfortable. Ethan's face flushed red. He could feel every eye in the coffee shop turning toward him. The fluorescent lights seemed too bright. The espresso machine screamed. Someone's laughter felt like needles. I'm working. I'm not bothering anyone. His hands began moving faster. Tap, tap, slide, tap, stress response kicking in. See, but that hand thing. Skylar zoomed in. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's really concerning behavior, and please stop filming me. Ethan's voice cracked. I'm in a public space. I can film whatever I want, Skylar said, her tone sharpening now that she had him on the defensive. And honestly, if you're not doing anything wrong, why are you so worried about being filmed? The logic trap, the gaslighting, the performance of reasonableness covering cruelty. Ethan stood up, grabbing for his laptop with shaking hands, knocking over his coffee in the process. The hot liquid splashed across the table, onto his lap. The sound of the ceramic mug shattering on the floor was like a gunshot in his hypersensitive hearing. He couldn't breathe. The lights were too bright. Too many people staring. Too much noise. His hands went to his ears, pressing hard, trying to shut out the overwhelming sensory assault. He was making a sound he couldn't control, a low keening that came from somewhere deep in his chest. He was having a meltdown, his nervous system completely overwhelmed, and Skylar's phone captured every second. Oh my God, Skylar gasped to her live stream, backing away theatrically. He's literally freaking out right now. This is exactly what I was worried about. Someone call. Stop filming him. The voice came from the doorway, deep, authoritative, carrying the kind of command that made people's spines straighten involuntarily. Marcus Walker stood silhouetted against the morning sun, still in his Navy uniform, a duffel bag over his shoulder. He'd landed at North Island Naval Air Station 40 minutes ago, hadn't even been home yet, but his mother's frantic call had redirected him here. He was 31, but looked older, 6'2" of coiled muscle and controlled violence, with gray-blue eyes that had seen things that aged souls faster than years. A jagged scar ran from his left temple to his jawline, and his hands, though currently relaxed at his sides, bore the calluses of a man who'd spent a decade doing things most people couldn't imagine. He moved through the coffee shop with the purposeful stride of someone who'd navigated far more dangerous terrain, reaching Ethan in 4 strides. He placed himself between his brother and Skylar's phone, blocking the shot. Ethan, Marcus said softly, his voice dropping to the calm, gentle tone that contrasted sharply with his appearance. Hey, buddy. I'm here. You're safe. Let's get you outside, okay? Ethan's hands were still pressed to his ears, his eyes squeezed shut, but at the sound of his brother's voice, something shifted. Marcus gently guided him toward the door, one hand on his shoulder, shielding him from the dozens of phone cameras now recording. Skylar, however, wasn't done with her performance. Excuse me, sir, she said loudly, following them with her phone. I'm actually documenting concerning behavior for public safety, and you're interfering with. Marcus stopped, turned. The look he gave her was the same one he'd given Taliban commanders before operations went kinetic, flat, emotionless, and absolutely terrifying in its controlled intensity. You have 5 seconds to stop filming my brother, Marcus said quietly. After that, I'm going to make you famous in ways you won't enjoy. Skylar's perfectly microbladed eyebrows raised. Her chat was exploding, 76,000 viewers now, all watching the confrontation. Are you threatening me on live stream? She practically laughed, sensing even better content. Guys, are you seeing this? This is literally assault. I'm informing you, Marcus interrupted, his voice never rising, that if you continue to exploit a disabled person for profit, I will dedicate every waking hour to ensuring the world knows exactly who you are. Not the character you play online, the real you. And I'm very, very good at finding information people want to keep hidden. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise, delivered with the calm certainty of someone who'd conducted intelligence operations in hostile territory. For just a moment, something flickered behind Skylar's influencer mask, uncertainty, maybe even fear. Then her ego reasserted itself. She was Sky Vex. She had 5 million followers. She had lawyers. She had power. Whatever, psycho, she scoffed, turning back to her live stream. Guys, I literally just got threatened by some military bro. This is insane. I'm definitely pressing charges. Marcus didn't respond. He simply guided Ethan outside, into the parking lot, where his brother finally felt safe enough to uncurl from his protective crouch. But as they left, Marcus's mind was already working with the cold precision of a tactical planner. Skylar Vex had just made the worst mistake of her life. She'd declared war on someone who'd spent a decade learning how to dismantle enemies from the inside out. And unlike her previous victims, Marcus Walker had the skills, the resources, and the absolute commitment to see this through to total victory. The battle had just begun. 12 hours later, Skylar was in her luxury apartment in downtown San Diego, editing the coffee shop footage. The live stream had been her most watched ever, 2.3 million views and climbing. Her notifications were nuclear. Brands were already reaching out. Netflix had DM'd about a potential documentary series. A talent agency wanted to rep her. The confrontation with Military Bro, as her followers had nicknamed Marcus, had been a goldmine. She was already planning the narrative. Brave content creator stands up to aggressive veteran who defends his creepy brother. She didn't know that at that exact moment. In a modest apartment in Coronado, Marcus sat in front of 3 monitors, a satellite uplink, and equipment that technically shouldn't exist outside of classified military facilities. His teammate Jackson Ghost Rivera appeared on one screen via encrypted video call. Ghost was the team's cyber warfare specialist, a 29-year-old genius who'd been recruited from MIT before he could finish his PhD in computer science. "You sure about this, Doc?" Ghost asked, fingers already flying across his keyboard. "Going after a civilian is different then." "She's not a civilian," Marcus interrupted, his voice cold. "She's a predator who targets the vulnerable. I've seen her content. 23 different people with disabilities or mental illness, all filmed without consent, all mocked for profit. Ethan's just the latest." Ghost was quiet for a moment. "Then, what do you need?" "Everything," Marcus said. "Financial records, real identity, deleted posts, private messages, NDAs, every piece of dirt she's ever buried. I want to know who Skylar Vex really is when the camera's off." "Copy that. Give me 48 hours. Marcus leaned back in his chair, looking at the monitor showing Skylar's latest post. Ethan's meltdown, edited to maximize humiliation, with a caption about public safety concerns and mental health awareness that made Marcus's blood boil. She thought she was untouchable. She thought her followers were armor. She had no idea that the most dangerous predator was already inside her perimeter, and he was just getting started. The next morning, Ethan sat at the kitchen table of Marcus's apartment, staring at his cold coffee. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the phones pointed at him, heard Skylar's voice dripping with false concern, felt the crushing weight of hundreds of thousands of strangers judging him. "I can't go back there," Ethan said quietly. "To the coffee shop. She ruined it. That was my place, Marcus. That was where I felt safe." Marcus set down his own coffee, reaching across to grip his brother's shoulder. "I know, buddy. But here's what you need to understand. She doesn't get to take your spaces away. She doesn't get to win. And she's definitely not going to keep using you for content. What are you going to do?" Ethan asked, looking up with those intelligent green eyes that held more awareness than most people gave him credit for. Marcus chose his words carefully. "I'm going to give her a choice. Stop exploiting vulnerable people, delete all content featuring you, and issue a public apology, or I'm going to show the world who she really is." "She won't stop," Ethan said with the matter-of-fact certainty of someone who dealt with bullies his entire life. "People like her never stop. They just find new targets. Then I'll make sure there's nothing left to target with." Skylar's apartment was chaos in the best way. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since yesterday. The coffee shop confrontation video had 5.8 million views. She'd gained 200,000 new followers. 3 major brands had reached out about sponsorships. Her manager, Trish Kaufman, sat on her white leather couch, scrolling through contracts on her iPad. "Sky, this is incredible," Trish said, barely containing her excitement. "BuzzFeed wants an exclusive interview. TMZ is calling. And get this, there's a production company that wants to do an entire series about you confronting public menaces. 6-figure deal." Skylar smiled, checking her reflection in the mirror. "Perfect. Always perfect." "What about the military guy?" she asked. "Has he done anything?" Trish waved dismissively. "His brother filed a cease and desist through some cheap legal aid lawyer. We're not taking it down. Public space, First Amendment, yada yada. Our lawyers said he has no case." "Good." Skylar picked up her phone. "Because I'm planning part 2. I found out coffee shop creeper works at a tech startup downtown. I'm thinking I do a workplace safety concern visit." She didn't notice Trish's expression shifting slightly, a flicker of unease. "Sky, maybe we should cool it on this particular guy?" His brother seemed intense. "And people are starting to comment that." "People always comment," Skylar cut her off. That's the point. Engagement is engagement. Controversy creates cash. You taught me that. Trish had indeed taught her that. But something about the way that Navy SEAL had looked at her camera nagged at her. There'd been something in his eyes. Not anger, but calculation. Still, Skylar Vex had weathered controversies before. She'd been canceled a dozen times and always came back stronger. This would be no different. At 2,200 hours that night, Ghost's encrypted call came through. "Doc, you're going to want to sit down for this," Ghost said, and Marcus could hear the grim satisfaction in his teammate's voice. Skylar Vex isn't even her real name. She's Stephanie Vollmer from Tucson, Arizona. Changed it legally 3 years ago when she decided to rebrand. Marcus pulled up the files Ghost was sending, a digital dossier that would make the CIA jealous. Before the influencer thing, she was working HR for a tech company in Phoenix. Got fired for, and this is beautiful, harassment and creating a hostile work environment. She was taking photos of employees without consent and posting them to a private Instagram mocking their appearance, disabilities, basically anything she could weaponize. Witnesses? Marcus asked. 4 former co-workers willing to talk. They signed NDAs, but NDAs don't cover illegal activity. And Doc, it gets better. Ghost pulled up financial records. She's not as rich as she pretends. The designer lifestyle is all debt. She's $340,000 in the hole. Credit cards, personal loans, tax liens. The apartment, the car, the clothes, it's all leveraged. She needs the engagement to keep the sponsors happy to keep paying her bills. So she's desperate, Marcus said. Desperately dependent on staying relevant, yeah? But here's the kill shot. Ghost pulled up deleted DMs, recovered from Skylar's supposedly private accounts. Messages to other influencers, strategizing about finding targets. Messages to her manager about maximizing disability content because it performs well. Messages laughing about the coffee shop creeper and how much money they'd make off Ethan's meltdown. And most damning, messages showing she'd staged confrontations before, using actors, fabricating public freakouts for content. She's a fraud, Ghost said simply. Half her viral content is manufactured, and the other half is exploitation. I've got everything documented, backed up in 3 locations, ready to deploy on your command. Marcus stared at the screens, his mind running tactical scenarios. He could release everything now, destroy her in one massive data dump. But that wasn't how you won psychological operations. You didn't just defeat the enemy. You made them defeat themselves. Hold the files, Marcus said. I want her to escalate first. I want her so overconfident, so convinced she's untouchable, that when the hammer drops, there's no recovery. You're really going to let her keep posting about Ethan? Ghost asked carefully. For exactly 3 more days, Marcus said, his voice cold. Long enough for her to think she's won. Long enough for her to make mistakes. And then we end this. Day 2 of Marcus's operation, Skylar made her move. She showed up at Ethan's workplace, a small tech startup called Vertex Solutions that specialized in accessibility software. Ethan was a junior developer, working remotely most days, but Skylar had done her research. She knew his schedule. She went live as she walked into the office. Okay guys, so I did some digging, and Coffee Shop Creeper actually works here, she announced to her 87,000 live viewers. And I think his employer deserves to know they have someone concerning on staff. She approached the reception desk with her phone high, her voice loud. Hi, I need to speak to someone in HR. I have some serious concerns about one of your employees, Ethan Walker. He's been exhibiting really disturbing behavior in public, and I think for workplace safety. The receptionist, a young woman named Keisha, looked extremely uncomfortable. Ma'am, I can't discuss our employees. If you have a concern, you can submit it in writing too. Oh, I have video evidence, Skylar interrupted, shoving her phone toward Keisha's face. Millions of people have seen this man's erratic behavior, and I think, ma'am, you need to leave. This came from building security, already moving toward her. This is literally public safety. Skylar protested, but she was already backing toward the door, her phone capturing everything. This company is harboring someone dangerous, and she was escorted out, but she'd gotten what she needed, content. The video went nuclear. 6.2 million views in 4 hours. Her comments section was divided. OMG Sky, you're so brave for doing this. Someone needed to hold this creep accountable. This is harassment. You're literally stalking him now. His brother is gonna destroy you, lol. But the metrics didn't lie. Engagement was through the roof. Skylar had never been more famous. What she didn't know was that Marcus had been counting on this exact move. She'd now committed multiple actionable offenses: workplace harassment, targeted cyberbullying, and potentially tortious interference with Ethan's employment. More importantly, she'd revealed her playbook, and Marcus had studied it carefully. Day 3, Ethan received an email from Vertex's HR department. They needed to discuss the recent public attention surrounding him. He showed Marcus the email, his hands shaking. "They're going to fire me," Ethan said flatly. "Because of her. I'm going to lose my job because some stranger decided to make me her content." Marcus read the email, his jaw tightening. Then he made a call. 20 minutes later, Ethan's phone rang. It was Vertex's CEO, Amanda Chun, calling personally. "Mr. Walker, I want to apologize for that email. It was sent by an HR intern who didn't understand the situation. We've reviewed the videos, and it's clear you're being harassed. We're actually consulting with our legal team about pursuing action against Ms. Vex for interfering with our employees' right to work in peace." Ethan looked at Marcus in confusion. After the call ended, Marcus explained, "Amanda Chin's son is autistic. I reached out to her directly, explained the situation, and she was receptive to ensuring you're protected." "How did you know her son?" "Research, Ethan. Same way I'm researching everything else." But Marcus didn't tell his brother the full truth. Amanda Chin wasn't just sympathetic. She was also a major donor to disability rights organizations and had been looking for an opportunity to make a public stand against exploitation content. She'd just become a very powerful ally. That evening, Skylar received an email from her management company. Her manager Trish had been fired. The company was restructuring their influencer division and moving in a different direction. Translation: they were distancing themselves from the controversy before it metastasized. For the first time, Skylar felt a cold finger of worry trace down her spine. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Vollmer." The use of her real name made her freeze. "This is Stephanie Vollmer, correct? Formerly of Tucson, Arizona? Formerly employed by TechSource Solutions until your termination for harassment." Her blood ran cold. "Who is this?" "Someone who's been watching you the same way you've been watching vulnerable people. You have 24 hours to delete all content featuring Ethan Walker and issue a public apology, or everything, and I mean everything, about who you really are becomes public knowledge." Is this the military psycho? Skylar's fear crystallized into anger. "Because I have lawyers, and this is blackmail, and..." "It's not blackmail if the information is already compiled and ready to distribute to every media outlet, every sponsor, every person you've ever exploited. I'm offering you a choice. Make it wisely." The line went dead. Skylar immediately called her lawyer, who told her it was probably a bluff, that her content was protected, that she shouldn't negotiate with harassers. So Skylar made her choice. She went live that night with a tearful video about being threatened and stalked by an aggressive military veteran who was trying to silence her for speaking truth. The video got 4 million views. Her followers rallied around her. She felt invincible again. She had no idea that Marcus had been counting on exactly this response. The trap was set. All he had to do was spring it. Hour 0. Marcus sat in his apartment, 3 monitors glowing in the darkness, Ghost on encrypted comms, and 2 other teammates, Diego Reaper Santos and Kyle Nomad Zhang, standing by for coordination. She chose wrong. Marcus said simply, "Execute Operation Lighthouse." Ghost's fingers flew across his keyboard. "Lighthouses go." Releasing the dossier in 3, 2, 1. What happened next would later be studied in digital marketing classes as the fastest and most complete destruction of an online persona in social media history. Phase 1. The reveal. At 0600 hours Eastern Time, a comprehensive website went live, whoiskylarvex.com. It wasn't flashy. It was clinical, methodical, devastating. The homepage featured side-by-side photos, Skylar Vex in her influencer glory, and Stephanie Vollmer's employee ID from her previous job. Below that, organized in meticulous sections. Section 1. The fraud. Documented evidence of staged, public freakout, videos using paid actors. Financial records showing payments to people who later appeared in her authentic content. Messages between Skylar and other influencers coordinating fabricated controversies. Section 2. The pattern. 23 separate incidents of filming disabled or neurodivergent people without consent. Messages discussing which types of targets got the best engagement. Deleted videos that had been even worse than what remained public. Section 3. The business. Her real financial situation. $340,000 in debt. The apartment, car, and designer lifestyle all leveraged and underwater. How sponsors were unknowingly funding exploitation content. Section 4. The history. Her termination from TechSource Solutions for harassment. Testimonials from former co-workers, names redacted for their protection. The legal name change from Stephanie Vollmer to Skylar Vex. Section 5. The victims. Interviews with people she'd previously targeted, conducted with consent. The real-world impact of her content. Job losses, mental health crises, one attempted suicide. A special section dedicated to what she'd done to Ethan, including neuropsychologist commentary on the harm of her actions. Every claim was sourced. Every document was verified. Every piece of evidence was irrefutable. At the bottom, a simple statement. This website exists because predators flourish in darkness. Skylar Vex built an empire by exploiting the vulnerable and monetizing their pain. This is the truth she doesn't want you to see. Share it. Archive it. Don't let it disappear. Ghost had seeded the link to 40 major media outlets, 200 disability rights organizations, and 50,000 carefully selected social media accounts. By 0800, hashtag #WhoIsSkylarVex was trending. By 0900, it was the #1 trend nationwide. Phase 2, the cascade. Skylar woke to her phone exploding with notifications, but not the good kind. Her Instagram was flooded with comments linking to the website. Her TikTok was being brigade. Her Twitter mentions were a nuclear wasteland. She opened the website, and her perfectly curated world shattered. No, 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 no. She was scrolling frantically, her hands shaking. This is illegal. This is doxing. This is... Her phone rang. Her lawyer. Stephanie, we need to talk about damage control. It's Skylar, she screamed. And damage control? Someone just released my entire life. Actually, her lawyer said carefully, everything on that website appears to be legally obtained information, properly sourced, and falls under First Amendment protection. The creator was very, very careful. You don't have legal recourse here. Then take it down. Sue for defamation. Is any of it false? Silence. That's what I thought. Stephanie. Sorry, Skylar. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. If you sue, you'll only make this bigger. My advice is to go dark, issue an apology, and hope this blows over in a few months. But it was too late for that. Phase 3, the collapse. By noon, the dominoes were falling. Better Life Energy Drinks, her biggest sponsor, we are immediately terminating our partnership with Skylar Vex. Her values do not align with our brand's commitment to inclusion and respect. Lux Cosmetics. We were unaware of the full scope of Ms. Vex's content strategy and are severing all ties effective immediately. Fit Fam Apparel. After reviewing the documented evidence, we can no longer in good conscience associate our brand with this individual. Within 6 hours, Skylar lost an estimated $400,000 in annual sponsorship income. Her management company dropped her. Her talent agency released a statement saying they'd mutually agreed to part ways. Netflix canceled the documentary deal. The production company pulled their series offer. But the internet wasn't done. Phase 4, the reckoning. What Marcus hadn't anticipated, though perhaps he should have, was how the disability community would mobilize. Organizations like the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, National Down Syndrome Society, and dozens of smaller advocacy groups amplified the website. Lawyers began reaching out to Skylar's previous victims, offering pro bono representation. A class action lawsuit was filed against her for emotional distress and violation of privacy rights. State attorneys general in California and Arizona opened investigations into her business practices. The IRS received anonymous tips about potential tax fraud related to her undisclosed income from staged content. Even the platform started moving. TikTok suspended her account, pending investigation of community guidelines violations. Instagram demonetized her. YouTube age-restricted her content and removed her from monetization eligibility. Her 5 million followers began disappearing, some out of disgust, many revealed to be bots she'd purchased, now being purged by platform algorithms. The confrontation. 3 days after Operation Lighthouse launched, Skylar's world had been reduced to ashes. She'd lost her apartment, couldn't make rent without sponsor income. Her car was repossessed. Her credit cards were maxed and closed. She was functionally broke, internet famous for all the wrong reasons, and facing multiple lawsuits. In desperation, she did the only thing she could think of. She went to find Marcus. She showed up at the Brew Harbor coffee shop, the same one where this had all started, knowing from social media that Ethan had returned there with his brother. Marcus was sitting with Ethan at the corner table when Skylar walked in. She looked nothing like the polished influencer from her videos. Her hair was unwashed, pulled back in a messy ponytail. She wore sweatpants and a hoodie. Her eyes were red from crying. Every head in the coffee shop turned. Some people recognized her. There were whispers. She walked straight to Marcus's table. "You destroyed my life," she said, her voice shaking with rage and tears. "Everything I built, gone. Are you happy now?" Marcus looked up at her with those cold gray-blue eyes. "I gave you a choice," he said quietly. "Delete the content. Apologize. Move on. You chose to double down. You chose to paint yourself as the victim while continuing to hurt my brother. I'm getting death threats." Skylar's voice cracked. "People are showing up at my parents' house. I can't get a job because my real name is all over the internet connected to all of that." "All of what?" Marcus's voice remained calm. "The truth? The documented evidence of how you built a career exploiting vulnerable people." Skylar's hands were shaking. "It was just content. It was just videos. I didn't actually hurt anyone." "Yes, you did." This came from Ethan, who'd been silent until now. He looked up at Skylar, making eye contact for one of the rare times in his life. "You hurt me," Ethan said simply. "You made millions of people think I was dangerous, creepy, someone to fear. You came to my workplace. You tried to get me fired. You turned the one place I felt safe into a place where I'm recognized and stared at. You didn't hit me, but you hurt me." Skylar's face crumpled. For the first time, she seemed to truly understand. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry, I didn't think." "No," Marcus interrupted. "You didn't think. You didn't think about the consequences. You didn't think about the people you were weaponizing for engagement. You thought about views and sponsors and your image." He leaned forward slightly. "Here's what's going to happen now. You're going to go home. You're going to record a genuine apology. Not a sorry you were offended non-apology, but a real acknowledgement of harm. You're going to delete every piece of content featuring Ethan. And you're going to use whatever platform you have left to tell people why what you did was wrong." "And if I do that?" Skylar asked desperately. "Will you take down the website?" Marcus shook his head. "The website stays up. It's a historical record. But if you actually make amends, real amends, I won't add to it. The choice, like always, is yours." Skylar stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face, the weight of her choices finally crushing down on her. Then she turned and walked out. The apology. 2 days later, Skylar uploaded a video. No ring light. No editing. No makeup. Just her, in a bare apartment, looking at the camera. "My name is Stephanie Vollmer. I used the name Skylar Vex to build a career by mocking and exploiting people with disabilities, neurodivergence, and mental illness. I told myself it was just content. I told myself it was harmless. I was wrong. Ethan Walker is autistic. He was minding his own business, working, existing in public space, and I decided he would be good for engagement. I filmed him without consent. I mocked his disability. I showed up at his workplace, and I tried to weaponize public opinion against him. I caused him real harm for fake internet points. I'm sorry, not because I got exposed, but because what I did was cruel and wrong. I'm deleting all content featuring Ethan and anyone else I filmed without understanding or consent. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect my career back. I'm recording this because it's the right thing to do, and I should have done it months ago." The video got 12 million views. The comments were mixed. Some people accepted the apology, many didn't, but there was a sense that maybe, finally, there might be a chance at accountability. The Brew Harbor coffee shop had returned to normal. Ethan sat at his usual table, headphones on, working on code, his coffee steaming beside him. Marcus sat across from him, out of uniform now, having transitioned out of active duty. He was working on a new project, consulting with tech companies on digital safety, and helping veterans with PTSD navigate civilian life. How's the code coming? Marcus asked. Ethan pulled off one headphone. Good. I'm building an app that helps autistic people find sensory-friendly public spaces. Coffee shops, libraries, parks. User-rated for noise levels, lighting, crowds. Marcus smiled. That's brilliant. Skylar's working at a grocery store, Ethan said suddenly. I saw her. She didn't see me. She was stocking shelves. How did that make you feel? Ethan thought about it. Weird. Not happy. Not sad. Just weird. Like seeing a character from a bad dream in real life. Except they're just a person. She is just a person, Marcus said. A person who made terrible choices and is facing the consequences. That doesn't mean you have to forgive her. I don't forgive her, Ethan said firmly. But I also don't think about her anymore. She doesn't get my brain space. Marcus nodded, proud of his brother's growth. Outside, the San Diego sun was shining. Inside the coffee shop, Ethan was safe. And somewhere in the digital archives of the internet, whoiskylarvex.com remained live. A permanent reminder that cruelty, even when wrapped in entertainment, leaves a mark. And sometimes, the vulnerable have protectors who know how to fight back. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that every person deserves dignity, please share it with your friends and family. Let us spread the message that defending the vulnerable is not just right, it's necessary. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about justice, courage, and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. May we always remember that our words and actions have power, power to harm or power to heal. Choose wisely. If you believe in protecting the vulnerable and standing against cruelty, please type Amen in the comments below. Stay safe and keep the faith.